Hi friends, this is Sarah from Crafting and Relaxing. Thank you so much for joining me. I was thinking about my December Smash the Small pad and that I better get to it. So I chose my Mind's Eye Remarkable, and this came to me as a gift. I didn't purchase it, but it's in my stash and I've been thinking about my goals and needing to use things up. So I'm going to start ripping into this, going really fast. I'm hoping to show you sort of a speed smash. I don't know that we're going to go all the way. We'll see. And I'll tell you why as I go. When I'm in a hurry, the first thing I do is I get the pieces out and I try not to rip them. This one is the kind with the holes and the things, so you have a little more leeway. The ones that don't have those borders will give you trouble. And if it's a really sturdy pad like this, your best bet before you start biting those papers too much is to attack the whole pad and loosen it up in a couple places. Essentially, it's kind of like you're breaking the binding on a book, and then it will give up the paper a little better. Now, I'm not going to worry about how I tear these out because honestly, I'm going to cut off that gray strip. In a different pad, I might save those, but I'm going to have a bunch of them, so I don't care. They're going to be really bent and messed up. So if they were all perfect, I would want to slow down, and not all perfect, all different and pretty. I would want to slow down and do it different. And you can see where I've damaged the pad, they tear apart better, right? I broke into the glue. On a smash, sometimes we take our time because it's a bunch of cards for work or it's different things. But here I have no plan yet. But here's what I'm thinking. You know that in the spring, look at me thinking ahead, it's December, I make a giant batch of about 80 cards. I used to say it was 60, now I know we're near 80. And what we did last year was we sort of did it as a fun activity together at work. And what I found was the people at work who weren't as experienced crafting were a little bit terrified by the whole thing. If they just had like the whole entire, I'm trying to think about how I want my card fronts to be and if I want to get more creative in my card fronts. And I think I do. So for now, I'm just going to cut off this. And if you're doing a giant batch, let your scraps pile up. Don't pick up the piece of paper every time you cut. And if your cutter can handle it, do more than one at a time. If it can't, like if it's a track cutter, don't ask it to do that. And then I just check and make sure I got the second one good. So if I just give them 6x6 pads and supplies, it might be a little overwhelming. And there's all different skill levels of crafters. What I did last year was I took them tons of card fronts and prepped embellishments, and they had a great time. Plus, 80 cards takes a long time if you're doing it on breaks at work where it's like 15 minutes, 10 minutes. So even if they have months, it takes a long time. I had to bring stuff home at the end and finish last time. So I'm trying to think of how can I set them up for success. And I think it was a little intimidating. So they didn't get a lot. It wasn't a big group that helped. So maybe if it's set up a little better, that'll work. So one thing I'm doing as I'm cutting and talking to you is I'm also looking at these papers and trying to figure out which ones are going to be my backgrounds, which ones I like, which ones I don't like. I have other school stuff too, lots of primary, different color palettes. So some of these will cross over and work, but like this, no. So we're going for this one, right? We have more need for elementary, but if I had a whole bunch of graduation papers, I would use those. I just don't. My guess is I probably gave away donation papers and never really, or graduation papers and never even thought about it. Okay, so we've got some embellishment opportunities here. I'm going to leave those here. I'm going to throw out all these right now. And, sometimes I use those, sometimes I don't. Like that one. This one's schoolish. This one's kind of Christmas-ish. We'll figure it out. Okay, jacks. They almost look like, is that what those are called? Jacks? Okay, I like the stripe. I like the dot. It's less formal. Floral. Measuring tapes and stuff. That's fun. I really like this plaid. Is that weird for me? It is. Embellishments. We got to find the other ones. Okay. I think the numbers will be fun embellishments. These are kind of formal, both of these, but I think I like the lighter. They're a weird mix of like formal and not patterns, and I'm matching up the papers as I go, so I'm not resorting things a million different times. Sometimes I do that as I cut, but since I was cutting multiples, sometimes I didn't mess with it. Not much directional paper in here. That's great. That really helps us. I think the numbers on these are like the only ones. Okay, now let's think about some cards we could put together. And let's flip these and see if, nope, I'm looking for solids that I might like. Gosh, the yellow is good. The brown is okay, but it's not schoolish. Nope, not feeling that one. Nope. Shoot. That's what I thought. I would use that one as a solid. Oh, the funny things you say. Numbers. Postcard, the best day ever. The story, snapshots. I think we would use a lot of those. I think they would be fun embellishments. So, I would not leave these for them to cut because it's kind of detailed cutting. So I'm just going to come through because this cutter does amazing, perfect little cuts. It is the best. You can do this on a track cutter for sure too. You don't have to have all the tools I have, but I judge things, if you're new here, I judge things by would I replace them? So I don't want you to run out and buy something just because I have it, because I might have it because I had it forever. First of all, I would be heartbroken, but if anything happened to this cutter, I would be online looking for one probably within 5 minutes. So that gives you an idea of how I feel about this cutter. I'm a big fan of this one. And I have cutter videos too, if you're looking or wondering. So I'm just going to chop these all up. And then what I'm thinking is I might layer them with solids. Probably not from this because we didn't see any that we really liked, but you know, I have cardstock. Or for now, I might just set them aside and consider them smashed. Because if they are true embellishments, like the best day ever, that one I'll probably matte with some cardstock and layer up. But some of these other ones, I might not want too thick because if I was making these cards, which, you know, if all goes well, I don't have to make them all. I might want to play with those like as embellishments down the side of a page. And if they're layered up too much, that might annoy me. They might be too thick and bulky. So the best day ever, I would layer. Oh, the funny things you say. That's great for elementary schools, isn't it? Oh my gosh. Okay. And this one's kind of like a book cover, right? Days of the week. And it kind of has that blue line school paper look. And all I'm doing is just cutting a hair off in between. I don't try and get perfectly on the line. Life is too short for that. And then, sorry, you can't see. There you go. I'm just making some tidy little piles over here. Then all of this tiny fine, we're just going to push that out of the way. Keep going. And we'll get a nice cut here. So maybe you have a pad of paper that you don't love, okay? And you want to smash it and donate the cards, but you've just been putting it off. I mean, I do really like this paper, but when I looked at it, I thought it should be for school cards. It has the right colors. It has some of the right ideas. I mean, it doesn't have like school buses, but it has a lot of primary colors. So just don't overthink it. Just start chopping the things up. And you could, so there's two different ways. You could try and put together a kit from your stash, and you just take the pad and you walk around and you say, hey, what embellishments do I have that work with this? What colors? What might I like with it? And you might find some inspiration that way, because because you say, oh, I have these green embellishments that I thought I'd use for Christmas and I didn't. And then I have these yellow ones that I bought for such and such, but I never used, or they were on sale. Yellow is a weird color. Somebody at work got some gems, yellow gems, on a major clearance. I mean, I think she paid 25 cents for them. They'll be great with the school buses. They were like the perfect color. Maybe you look around that way. So making a kit can be a way to get inspired. And I know I've done that over the years, like Valentine's or other things. You could probably search crafting and relaxing and kit. But the other way for me, what we're doing now is just start chopping. Don't sit around and think about it anymore. If you've got to get it out of your stash and you're tired of looking at it. And maybe you think, why do you buy things you don't like? Why do you... Well, you know, we've all done it. It was a good sale. This, I'm sure I got for free. And I do like this one, but I have some others in my stash that I bought, I used. Then Noni, my friend Noni next door, she gave me hers. So now, I'm not sure. Do I want to do it again? Did I like it enough to do it twice? So I have to figure those out. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. The numbers are great, but maybe they want a band of embellishments too. So let's go, probably not 5.5. We're probably never going to do 5.5 because that first layer is almost always, what if we just make a bunch of 5-inch strips? And that's right here, so that works great for these. And then they become embellishments for horizontal cards. They're about the right length. And then maybe we can figure out either on the next ones, we'll go individuals or we'll do vertical. Vertical won't work as well though because the numbers won't be in order. So maybe these are for horizontal cards. And I'm just trying to trim them to get the other color off is all I'm doing. There's no like rocket science to it or... And sometimes, and I think that's the case on these, the pattern isn't printed perfectly on the paper. So sometimes lining it up against the end does not work if you want your ephemera to come out right. Or your embellishments, whatever you want to call them. So think about that and be sure you're not just cutting where the line is, but that you're actually looking at both ends and saying, okay, this is crooked. I'm pretty sure I've had that trouble with my mind's eye before on a 6x6. There we go. Okay, so now we have these all ready. Are they going to use those? I don't know. What happened to this one? Okay, this one needs to be trimmed on the side. I can see the other color from the other boxes. And there's no rule that you have to get that off. It just bothers me. Okay, now this is almost 6 inches long, which is not useful in a card making world. So let's take the arrow off the bottom. And when I trim the arrow, I cut it so the yellow isn't on there, so I don't have to try and grab that little tiny scrap. So I get the first one right, and then I get the second one right. Okay, so now we've got some numbers. Those would be fun for cards. Numbers, letters, pencils, school buses, all that kind of stuff works great. Okay, now let's think about what color would we mat these with. I have gray. I have craft. I might want to look at what else I have in the bin for the school cards first before I start worrying about that. And I probably just want to cut and cut like the wind. We've got our cutter out. Let's go. There's going to be maybe not perfection in the shape of these cards, in the shape of these papers, because depending on how I cut them, right? If I was watching 6 inches or I just cut the thing off, that's okay. And I'm going to try and double them up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and say my card front will be 4 1/4. The actual base. Let me show you if you're learning the vocab. Do I have a card base? Here we go. My card base. So this piece is 4 1/4 wide. So my background paper is probably going to be 4 wide so I can have a low layer and not have to worry about straightening everything up. But I don't think this is going to be my background. Well, it could. It's a tiny, tiny pattern. Let's try it. Okay, so I'm going to cut it 4 inches, and I'm not going to cut them together because one of them's more curled and it's giving me trouble. So I'm going to go 4 by 5 1/4 because my card base is 5 1/2 long. And this is the layer that goes on here. And I'm going to do the same thing here. 4 5 1/4. And when I make these cards, I never want any to be the same. So I think about, I'm going to set this one up as a horizontal card and I'm going to set this one up as a vertical. And then right there, they've gone down different paths and you don't have issues. Okay. Now this stripe might be good for the background too. So let's do the same size with it. I'm just going to do one at a time so I don't mess it up. 4 5 1/4. If they're directional patterns, I cut them differently when I'm making the card. I don't think that works on these stripes. So that I have one horizontal, one vertical. Okay, so we have those. Now let's see if we think one of these patterns could go on here. Oh yeah. Okay, I want a 1/4 inch border all the way around, which is a little larger than I do sometimes, but I want a lot of the stripe to show. I don't want it to just be like that. I want it like this. So that was 4. We want a 1/4 inch on both sides. So we're going to go 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. And this is where we're deciding, are they horizontal or are they vertical? 3 1/2, 4 3/4. If you're not sure what I mean, this one is horizontal. It's directional. We could, like if we were doing like something grungy and playing around, I didn't get the length right. I don't know what's going on there. We could put these vertical and then like put a school kid or something over them, but I'm not going to. Okay. So then the other one I'm going to cut, I'm going to pay attention to my measurements while I'm talking. 4 by 5 1/4. No, I wanted it like this, didn't I? I don't think I cut that last one right. I'm checking to see. I actually kind of like this part better. I'm going to cut off the dark color. Is that weird? 4 3/4. Now, it doesn't matter if it doesn't lay out like I thought. What? Who is doing this? Oh, it was supposed to be 3 3/4, wasn't it? It doesn't matter if it doesn't have the same border all the way around, which is good because clearly I have math problems today. Let's make sure I got the first part right. But it was just how I thought it was going to be, but kind of fun, right? I have the stripes and they have put the numbers up and down on this part. This one was a little bit. So now I have these 2 cards with the stripe in the background here. I'm going to glue these together right now. Sometimes I put in an extra layer of cardstock between them, not right or wrong. I have faith that the people who decorate these cards are going to do such an amazing job. It doesn't need to have another layer of cardstock in between. Oh, you know, navy would also be good on this. I mean, obviously I have a blue bias, but it would, wouldn't it? Admit it, even if you don't love blue, it would be good. So here we go, and we have essentially 2 card fronts prepped. From these pieces of paper. Now, the trick to not getting them the same and your math right is you can't quite line it up at the corner perfectly and get it right. I'm going to take a hair off this side because I didn't get it quite centered. There you go. Now it's perfect. Okay, so those 2 I'm going to set right there. They're done and on a break. I'm going to wait to cut these because we don't know yet. Oh, and to make them different, I should have put one of these on this paper. Didn't even think about it. Right? Just mixing them up all the way along as you go. But one's horizontal and one's vertical. Already, nobody's going to get the same card as the person at the desk next to them. Maybe this green one doesn't suck. Maybe it's better than that one. The embellishments and the sayings and stuff are probably likely to be not formal. Okay, so now let's do something different. Let's use this as the background, and then I'm going to bring in the flowers in a different way, and I'll show you. And these are, lots and lots of people use card sketches. You can look online for card sketches all you want. These are just ideas that I use over and over and know I like. and maybe somebody has a card sketch of them. Maybe you just watch my beginning card maker videos and you get all my, oops, 3 3/4. You get all of my ideas from there. Okay, so the first one, 5 1/4, 5. Okay, so we've cut a rectangle that actually does layer up perfectly on this one. I left myself a 1/8 inch border around. Yeah, because it's 1/4 of an inch extra and then an 1/8. But I'm not going to leave it this way. I do it all the time. I'm sure you've seen me do it. I'm going to add a little interest. And I'm going to take that triangle, that's the second layer. Now I made sure the triangle was the right size before I cut it. That's a really good practice so that you can make sure it works. I'm going to cut it. I feel like this paper, maybe it's directional. I don't know. Maybe it's not. I kind of thought it was. Okay, then I would put one triangle here. And then I'm going to put another triangle down below. And again, I'm cutting this back layer 4 by 5 1/4 because we're making A2 cards. And I'm going to glue that on. You can use wet glue and you'll get it into your little points better, but I'm not going to worry about it. I don't think the world will end. Now, what you shouldn't do is glue random scraps in there. And I got some of it hanging over the edge, so don't do that either. Don't be like me. And I'm going to just mix these up. Well, when I put them in this stack, actually, since I'm not putting them on card bases right now, I think they're going to look the same. They might get mixed up. I honestly don't have enough card bases made right now to even think about using card bases for these cards. This is a problem for future me. So in May, I'll worry about card bases. If I'm smart, I'll worry about it in April, but if you're new here, I'm not that organized. Okay, this one I just thought, yeah, I didn't even get in the edges. Oops, I do not want to glue it to the card base. Now, this one we put on the green. Let's put this one on the plaid. See, mixing them up a little so it won't be exactly the same if it gets put together in a row. And since a bunch of different people are making the cards, I want to be sure I'm setting them up to have different stuff and mix them. So there you go. 2 easy things. We're just chopping paper and it's already super cute. I mean, you could take this, layer it up on some cardstock or some foam mount and call it a card if you wanted. You'd be done. Or you could spend all day decorating it. Either way. Now, we probably won't get into, in these cards, we probably won't get into embossing or anything like that, just because the group is still learning. That's super messy. And, you know, you can also hurt yourself. What about if we use the polka dots and we use this side? Okay, maybe not these two together, but if I went 1/4 inch, it would work. So what if we use the polka dots, not the dots and the dots? How about this? Can we live with it or do you hate it? We should be on the lives. You could tell me. I kind of like the dots and the dots. I hope you're with me. Here we go. The smaller piece of paper is for your larger pattern that you want to show. If we want a half, let's try and get it right this time, because clearly I didn't last time. 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, 3 1/2. Oh, you know what we can do? Let's do this. Let's go 3, just to mix things up. If you do 3 inches, you have enough to make 2 cards out of that paper. Does that make sense? So if it's a paper you like and you want to spread it a little farther, or I don't know, maybe I have a paper shortage, or I don't know, whatever. If you do a 3-inch strip on your card, then you can do it across the front of 2 cards. Make sense? I'm putting this down here, putting this down here. I'm going to try and center it, but if I don't, the world won't end. I had some adhesive there. Then I tip it. Sorry, that rocking sound is because one of the feet is probably gone off my cutter. One of the little pads, you know. Okay, there we go. Another card front for the pile. Then we have another 3-inch strip right here. And maybe we have a paper we could put it with. Oh, what about this one? Then it doesn't look exactly the same as the other one. I can give that up. So 4 by 5 1/4. Also, if I was making these just for me and I was doing all the assembly, which is pretty normal in my room, I might mix up the fronts. I might go 1/8 of an inch bigger, but I think this group needs to have their first layer the same size on all of them, because if they go to assemble the cards, that's going to catch them off guard and they're going to have troubles. They're going to start sticking card bases together thinking they need a certain amount of space around the outside, and then it's not going to work. So when you're working in a team, try not to get too creative with your measurements. But essentially, I'm just giving them creative spaces. Just giving them the fun part. Like, they don't have to make the card bases. Last year, that's what I had to do. In the end, I had to bring home the card bases and figure out how many horizontals and how many verticals I needed. Because once they're decorated, you kind of need the sentiment to be right side up. Okay, there we go. Now, we're not going to deal with all these scraps right now in this video, but if we get down to where all we have is these, then we're doing great. Did you hear my stomach growl? Okay. Okay, let's put something else. What about the floral and the plaid? Have we put those two together before? Oh, yeah, we did. Because it's cute. What about the polka dots? Those might be kind of busy together. No, let's try it. Let's do the polka dot in the back. 4, 5 1/4. And we'll cut this 3 3/4 by 5. Then we'll do the triangle thing again. I think the triangle lends itself really well because the floral is kind of a lot. And if you get a pattern that's too busy and I'm handing that off to people who are learning, they might not be able to find a way to kind of knock that back and put some sentiment on it. See, there's a lot going on here. Okay, now let's get the big space with the ATG. Also, if you want to make cards fast, the ATG is the secret to the universe. When I bought it, it was, I don't know, when was it? Before COVID, during COVID? It was like $21, and I should have spent that money years earlier. Now, that being said, the last time I looked in my Amazon store, I almost died when I saw the price. It was crazy. So I don't know if they've come back down or if the world will never be the same or what. But maybe if you're going to make a lot of cards, you shouldn't go without an ATG. And they work the same as like those little cartridges and stuff, but those are expensive and I don't think they're great for the planet. Ooh, love that one. See how the patterns aren't quite so busy together? That's actually a better paper combo, especially for somebody who's kind of learning and trying to figure out what we want them to make. Which the funny thing is, I don't care. They can make whatever they want, but they got kind of nervous. Of course, we have a couple people who I think now are totally sucked in and going to be paper crafters at work. That's fun. Okay. There we go. We've got a nice one here to work with. Clearly, I'm not in love with this. You can tell which papers you like and don't like. I just think this is too formal a pattern, so we have to use the red stripe. Can we use it with this? Right now, it just feels too Christmassy. I hope it doesn't in May. I'm not going to put these two together. That's pushing it. Okay. I can't do it. I'm going to put these two in my Christmas stash, and I'm going to do it right now, so it might not show in the final video, and like you can put a comment that says, hey, don't forget you cheated and gave 2 pieces of paper away. That's fine. I just don't want so much red and green. And maybe in May I wouldn't think that because I'd be thinking like garden and colors, but right now I'm thinking, oh, these feel Christmassy and I don't like it. We do have some scraps. Oh no, because we didn't cut into them at all. Yeah, that's how you can tell you don't like a paper. See, this is really formal, but what we'll do is we'll use this navy we'll use this as the back and we'll just make it work. So we'll go 4 by 5 1/4, and then we'll come in and we'll cut this one quite a bit smaller so the edge shows nice like we've been doing. In fact, let's do a 3-inch so we have more to work with. And we'll just go right across the front. If you are trying to be a miser with paper, like maybe you need a set of invitations and you need that collection, you know, maybe it matches somebody's wedding collection or something, and you want die cut out of this before you assemble, and then you can fill in the scrap. Or if you're using specialty paper, when I'm smashing a pad, I don't do that. If you gave me 2 pieces of 6 by 6 paper of what I think is the most beautiful blue paper in the world, I'm going to treat it differently. Okay, that one isn't centered, so to me, it goes like this. Like the heavier part is on the bottom. They don't know that, so hopefully they're fine with the fact that it's not centered. They'll figure it out. Okay, then 4, 5 1/4. I have a couple more pads in the cupboard or in the school bin. Ooh, I don't want to put it on the same one though. You paying attention? Keeping me on track? What do you think of that? Is that too much? Let's put it on the dots. Did we do that yet? I'm just checking to see what else. These we can die cut. We can make scrap cards. I mean, there's a whole bunch more cards in this pile too. Okay, these are the same size. So these are 2 background options. Yeah, I think this one goes on this. It just looks better. And then because I have so many scraps left, I'm going to cut this like a background layer. I'm going to cut it 4 inches. Now, sometimes, in fact, we're not going to cut it. We're going to put it right here because it takes 2 seconds to cut it 4 by 5 1/4, right? I can figure that out later. But maybe I want to die cut a big oval, or sometimes I realize later I wanted to make a pocket for a journal or something. That's not what's going to happen with this paper because I'm okay with this paper being out of my life. It's cute, but I don't need it forever. Okay, I dropped a whole bunch of the embellishments on the floor. Can't even blame the kittens. They're not here. I'm going to go ahead and make another card that looks the same. Maybe I'll center it and then it won't look the same because it'll actually be centered. See, I told you navy was good with this. Okay, 2. Now it's 3 inches, right? So it should be 1/2 and 1/2. Must not be quite 3 inches. So that's probably part of the problem. Okay. Then I just trim off the end because then you know they line up perfectly. Maybe you do it with scissors, however you want to do it. Maybe you just cut them. I used to always just cut them both to the right measurements, but then, you know, sometimes they don't line up perfectly. Sometimes you didn't cut them right. Sometimes you didn't line them up right. That took us about a half an hour, and we have these items left. And this gives you an idea. When I smash a pad, the first part goes super fast. This part can take forever. Now this pad, I didn't check, it's 24 sheets, not 36. A 36 pad takes you a long time. Then I'm gonna find probably a Ziploc bag or, you know, some packaging that I can reuse in my craft room. And I'm gonna put all these in it, but I am gonna mat these. And this is another thing I use the scraps for. I'm gonna go through these and say, maybe this one would be a good one. And I'm going to try and find some things to layer them on. Something with a small pattern that really just reads as a solid. Maybe the brown. Maybe. And prep those. When I come back with a second part of a video, you can see what I do on this next. And that's where a lot of people do use sketches. You can do a lot of cool things with 2-inch strips though, so don't be afraid of them. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back again soon. Bye-bye.